Woman Who Chat is sponsored by Grow Radio. Grow Radio is an online radio station dedicated to bringing you a different podcast on the hour, every hour. I'm proud that Woman Who Chat is played on Grow Radio every Tuesday at 3 p.m. and Friday at 8 a.m. and to be a part of their podcasting community. If you want to listen to the station, explore their shows, check out many of the blogs to improve your podcasting skills, or get your podcast onto Grow Radio, head over to growradio.uk today. Welcome to Woman Who Chat, and today I'm chatting with Wendy Garcarz of the Wendy Effect. Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Sandra. Lovely to be here today.
Now, we've chatted before about you and your business, but today we're going to chat about something a little bit different. And you've been doing some research into women in business, entrepreneurs, either they're already in business or they're just starting a business. And you decided earlier on this year to do a research project. Tell us a little bit about why you decided on that project and what you've done about it.
I started on the project because I was looking at the whole environment that women operate in. And there's been some research that's been done in the past around this, in particular the Rose Review, which was done in 2019. And knowing that we're in the sort of economic climate that we're in, there was a fact in there that once I'd read it, I couldn't get it out of my head. And it's this, that if women started and scaled businesses at the same rate that men do, we could add £250 billion into our economy. Now, that is just astonishing. And I couldn't get rid of this because knowing that we're coming out of a recession, but very slowly, what chancellor wouldn't want the opportunity to put all of that money into the economy? And yet when I looked around, there didn't seem to be that much practical help and support that was available for women. The other fact that was in the report that really got me going was the fact that the second largest group, the first largest group of women entrepreneurs is the 16 to 25-year-olds. But the second largest group is over 55s. And considering my age, I'm 64, that really intrigued me because I wanted to know why women who traditionally would be facing retirement are taking this time in their life to actually set up their own enterprise. So these two facts sort of were niggling away in the back of my mind, and I decided to try and find out a bit more about it, hence the research project.
Well, I'm really excited at this. I'm a woman over 55, and obviously I shared it with my community as well, because I know there are a lot of women in my community who are over 50, say, or over 55, and they come out of the corporate world and they don't want to retire.
Yeah.
They don't want to stop. And so they look for other things to do. And usually that's starting their own business, sometimes because they've been made redundant, they've got a lump sum, or they've got a pension coming in, or they're not so reliant maybe on the startup costs. I don't know, your research might tell us differently, but there are a lot of women that don't want to stop. We are not old.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was expecting that to come from the research. And when we put the questionnaire out, I would have been thrilled, Sandra, if we'd have got 500 responses. We had nearly 1,600. I mean, the responses were just astonishing. And what was interesting was, you're right, people do leave a corporate world and they use that lump sum or a pension sum to start a business. But what was also interesting was that some women do it from necessity. And that's from two reasons. One is that we all know that there's a gender pay gap. But what lots of women don't realise is that there's actually an even bigger problem, which is a gender pension gap. And what that means is that women, on average, are retiring with about £125,000 less in their pension pot than men who followed a similar path. So for some women, it's a necessity. The other thing is that we don't, in this country, we don't tend to value older members of our workforce. And so if, for example, a woman loses her job at 56 or 58, it's incredibly difficult to get back into paid employment, incredibly difficult. And so for some, the only other option, if they need that income, is actually to start their own enterprise. And I wasn't expecting that, but it came out loud and clear through the research.
Yeah. So this report now has been published. What other things has shocked you? What else has come from the report that really you weren't expecting?
I think there were two themes that came out loud and clear. One is, as you've already said, we are vital women. I mean, I remember, as I say, I'm 64, and I remember back when my grandmother was in her 60s, and she was an old lady. There's no two ways about it. But I look around me at my contemporaries and they're young, they're jumping out of aeroplanes, they're doing yoga 3 times or 5 times or every day of the week. They are much fitter, they have bigger aspirations, they're still ambitious, they've got tons of energy. And also what I notice is that women in this age bracket have got a real desire to still contribute. They want a purpose in life. They want to contribute to society. And having your own enterprise actually allows you to do that.
Yeah. And it's almost as if we're shutting off a complete skill set, because you look at the skill set of
Yeah.
women in business that have had these corporate careers, that have had, good jobs and things like that. And then they're expected to do nothing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
you
And
know,
they're frustrated, and you can absolutely understand that. And they fall into two camps. There are women who come out of corporate life who are very clear that they have that skill set and who know that they can go and set up their own enterprise. What was interesting is for those women, many of them really struggle to get the support. So out of all of the investment money that's available for new businesses or businesses that want to scale, women get awarded less than 10% of that money. And
wow,
actually, that's increased significantly over the last few years.
yeah,
So if you are a woman who's looking for investment capital, you're considered actually, particularly if you're over 55, you're considered to be a poor risk. Even if you've got a track record and you've managed in corporate life, you've managed a budget of millions, you're not considered to be a good risk. Well, that's outrageous in this day and age, isn't it?
yeah. And if you look back when I first went into self-employment, I think there were grants available and they were fully funded grants. There was a lot of grant sort of support around. So my first 12 weeks in business, I had a business coach, I had
Yeah,
everything all fully funded, all given to me. And there are some schemes still around, but that was it then. I was cut off and I was expected to go out and get a bank loan. That was the next step for me. But if I was doing that now, and going out for a bank loan, I'm a high risk
yeah,
because of my age.
yeah.
And they look at what they call your deemed retirement age, and they
Mhm.
say, well, you're a high risk. We wouldn't lend. Not that I'm looking to borrow money now, but I'm saying
Yeah,
if you are older, I mean, at my awards, I was interviewing women on the stage who were well over 55,
yeah,
and almost could be written off,
yeah.
but they're not ready to stop. They've just started businesses and, they are sort of early 70s. And why shouldn't they?
No, absolutely right. If you've got the energy and you've got the desire and you've got the push, why not? What I find really distasteful is the fact that if it was a 55-year-old man in front of a bank manager, it's unlikely that they would be given the same risk level. And that I find really distasteful. By and large, we are better decision makers. We are better risk takers. And the reason for that is that, again, this is what some of the research showed us, is that men are more likely to take risks, but women are more likely to take measured risks. We mitigate risk. I would suggest that makes us a safer bet for a loan, not a high risk bet. So I think sometimes what I was really starting to pull out of the research was there is a ton of outdated stereotypes out there about women of our age. And actually, we need to be doing some myth busting because they're not true. They're not appropriate for the age that we live in. And my goodness me, they certainly don't fit a lot of the women you and I network with, Sandra, who are, as you say, filled with energy, who want to make a contribution and who want to make a difference.
And there's a lot of skills there and the talent
You,
as well.
yeah,
You know, I worked on a research project probably about 10 years ago now, and it was a European research project. And I was interviewing companies
mm,
and talking about, you know, how many females they've got in their workforce. And as you moved up the leadership into senior management and board, how many females there were in that arena. And the European research was showing that actually, if you had a female on your board, your risk profile would actually shift
yeah,
because women look at things slightly differently to men, just our
yeah.
makeup and the way we do, and the decision making and the profitability would actually be improved.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
And it was an interesting piece of research. So, you know, it's really exciting to see what you're coming out with right now. Now, how hard was it to do a research project, Wendy? Because you know, there's a lot of your background, you've done a lot of research in the past.
Mm.
How hard was it to get this off the ground?
It was challenging because initially when you are a researcher, you see the problem, and very often you see it because you think slightly differently. So I'm a very strategic thinker. I always think about the big picture. And initially, when I first started to do it, it was clear that I was seeing a problem or a potential problem that other people just were not picking up on. Once, however, I was able to explain it and I'd got the questionnaire up and I was guiding people towards it, it really very quickly started to gain momentum because people were coming to the questionnaire and having a look and saying, my gosh, this actually applies to me. I've got an example of where this happened. I've been prevented from opening a bank account. I've been, one of the people who I interviewed, who is a very well-respected businesswoman. She's got a couple of businesses that are turning over six figures. She's been in business a long time, and she was trying to get a community project off the ground, which she needed funding for. She went through the first lot of funding with the venture capitalists to gain the funding for it. And she got through that round, but the notes on her recommendations for her to take it to the next stage was, next time bring a man on the panel. Now, in this day and age, Sandra, that is completely and utterly unacceptable.
Well, it's
Just outrageous.
discriminatory in a way, isn't it?
Yes. And of course, luckily, this lady is, she doesn't take prisoners and sent this guy off with a real flea in his ear, quite rightly. But she was outraged that somebody could even think that it was okay to say that in this day and age, knowing the track record that she'd got behind her. So I do think that there is a really important role that this sort of research plays, which is it will have the discussion and put out there the discussion and the debates and the issues for people to mull over, because without this sort of research, lots of people don't even know that there are issues like this.
So you've done your research. Now, I don't think you'll mind me saying, and I've called you this to your face, you're a 4'11" powerhouse, Wendy. I've got visions of you with your report in hand, knocking on number 10 and the doors of Westminster. What are you going to do with this? What do you want to happen? What's your ideal?
So ideally, the published report is in the form of a green paper. So what that is, it's an information paper that offers suggestions, that highlights problems and offers suggestions to decision makers, essentially. So that might be your local MP, or that might be government departments, or it might be business associations like the Chamber of Commerce, the FSB, or networking organisations,
Mhm.
because all of those organisations and institutions have it in their power to change some of the stuff that's in the report. They can create schemes, they can change laws, they can make recommendations, they can put mechanisms in place that actually eradicate some of these issues. So my hope for the paper is that it goes out and people pick it up and start to use it. I want to try and get a broader audience for it as possible. And I will be encouraging people who have signed up and got a copy of the report to send it to their local MP and say, what are you doing for women of this age in this area? We need to be pushing back. We need to be challenging. So that's the first thing. But it became very clear that when I was doing this is a bigger problem. And one of the big things that comes from it is that I think that the traditional view of retirement that we have for women in this day and age is just no longer fit for purpose. I think retirement is a social construct anyway, because we've always been the case where if women didn't want to work, they've always found a way. But I think that issue is much bigger because there are so many more of us that want to go out and do this stuff. So actually, Sandra, I've launched a movement,
Oh,
a movement, and the movement is called Refirement UK. And that's because retirement suggests somebody tired and down and out. And that's not our experience at all. We are women who have got places to go, people to see, and we're all fired up. Hence, refirement. So the idea of the movement is that we're going to be encouraging people to have discussions about what retirement should look like in the 21st century. And some of the recommendations in the report talk about the fact that whatever that looks like, we should have choice, we should have opportunities, we should have options that are in our gift. We shouldn't have to depend on somebody or go cap in hand to somebody to ask permission to do this stuff.
yeah. You
And they
said,
should.
yeah, you said something really interesting. You spoke at a conference recently, and you said something which really sort of struck a chord with me, because there is a perception that if you're not yet 55, you switch off from this and you switch off and you think that doesn't apply to me. But everybody's going to be 55 sometime.
Exactly.
And that's what
And
we're fighting for our future selves.
absolutely are. And what I would love to see is all of this experience and all of this knowledge and this wisdom that we have. I would like to see that being shared amongst younger women entrepreneurs coming up, because they can learn so much from the battles that we've already had to fight. You know, I don't want my family members, my younger family members coming up and fighting the same battles. I want them to be able to be freer and to have more choice and to do the things that they want to do. But unless we change some of these perceptions, it's going to be really difficult to do that.
And it's nice to see the shift in self-employment. I think the women in business self-employment figures have rose exponentially over the last decade. But coupled with that, I think that women in business are the employers of the future. They're the
Of
future
course.
of the economy.
Yeah.
And I think that can't be ignored.
No, I would wholeheartedly agree. And I do think sometimes for our age group, we are so underestimated by people. I mean, if you look at if you're a woman over 55 and you set up an enterprise, you are 50% more likely to make a success of that than your 30-year-old counterpart.
Mhm.
Now, that is because we've got life experience. We are seasoned communicators. We are excellent negotiators. We're using all of that skill to be able to give us that sustainable business. Wouldn't it be fantastic if you've got mechanisms where these more mature women entrepreneurs would be mentoring some of the younger ones and bringing them through? It would be fantastic. And we could take shortcuts that are just not there at the moment.
And I just want to touch on something else, Wendy. You know, there is a thought out there that women over a certain age, over 55, when they come out of the corporate world and they're written off, which they shouldn't be, you know, and are going into self-employment, we aren't technologically naive. We
No.
actually are pretty good at it because we were around before the internet and we've embraced change. And I think that is something that isn't recognised as well, that, you know, we have got women over 55 who run tech businesses.
Absolutely. And I would suggest that part of the problem that we have at the moment is down to perception rather than reality. So when we spoke to lots of women through the questionnaires, it did come back that they felt that they were not very good technologically. But when we started to push back, they didn't realise, for example, most business women have their life on their mobile phone. Well, that's a piece of technology. So we sort of talk our way into feeling inferior when actually there isn't social proof always to back that up. In fact, the opposite is true. There is social proof that we are extremely adaptable. We are good adopters of technology, and we will, as you say, we're incredibly flexible in terms of the way that we adapt to change. And we don't always give ourselves credit for that.
Yeah. So there's two schools of thought here. for our audience. So there's the school of thought and the part of our audience that will be fired up by this and say, how can we join the movement? How can we get on board with Refirement? So how would they do that if women, you know, are listening to this and think, I really want to be a part of this? How can they help you and get the message out there?
Great. So there is a website, and we're very new, so we've only just started. There is a website, a single page website at the moment, which is www.refirement.uk. Ever so easy to remember. And if you sign up to that, we're putting together a newsletter where we're going to be keeping you up to date with all of the news and everything of what's happening. Once we've got the research report out there, and we're starting to make inroads into that, then the idea is that the organisation will start to fill in through collaborations with other organisations and individuals, will start to fill in some of those gaps. So there might be training and development stuff, there might be events that you could come along and attend. We've got some really exciting developments planned for 2025, which I can't say too much about now, but I'm so excited about it, Andrew, because I think this is our moment. You know, there is a zeitgeist going on. People are talking about this. They recognise that there is this potential to be unleashed into the economy. And so there couldn't be a better time for this. And so, yeah, the idea is watch this space. But you can always contact me through the website, connect with me on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm easy to find because there's only one Wendy Garcarz. So yeah, contact me and let's see how you can get involved. I want to create a real buzz around this because I think it's really important. And I just want to give you a quote. Just this, there was one quote that stood out from the research, and it's a female founder. The lady's 56. And I was talking to her about, I did some interviews as well, and this was one of the ladies I interviewed. And I said to her, you know, what is it about our age? What is it that sort of means that we're sort of counted out? And this is what she said. The older women we see portrayed in society are not positive role models. They vary from retired, less active women with some sort of health problem to those who need to be doing everything and having it all. What having it all seems to be is having the responsibility for everyone and everything, whilst beating ourselves up if we're not a size 12, running a 6-figure business, being vegetarian, making TikTok sensations, and doing a sponsored skydive for charity while having a menopausal flush and wearing a tenor pad.
I love it. I love it.
Now, you know, that is a woman. You don't know her, but that is a woman who has just nailed it. And
Absolutely.
she has got energy. She's got sense of humour. She's got drive. She's got big ideas of what she's going to be doing. She ain't going to be retiring anytime soon, and she shouldn't have to. And what the movement is about is let's have some of those conversations and let's show the world what we're capable of doing. We are women who want to rock, but not in a chair.
I love that. Absolutely love it. I mentioned there was 2 areas. So the first one is the Refirement movement. The second area that the audience might resonate with is there might be somebody listening to this or watching on YouTube that thinks, I can take this further. I can help you. And again, how should they contact you? Through the Refirement or through the website?
Yes, yeah, contact me through the website, through the Refirement website. I am really keen to be getting people galvanised together and doing as much collaboration as I can, because I've always believed that 2 heads are better than 1. We know just through the networks that we share, Sandra, there are some phenomenal women out there. And my goodness me, if you put those in a room, you know, sat 10 of those round a table, there isn't a problem we couldn't solve. So if you want to get involved, please don't think, oh, you know, I've not got much to offer or whatever. You have got loads to offer. If you've got enthusiasm, if you've got skills, if you've got opinions, then I want to hear about them.
It's been absolutely fantastic chatting to you about this, Wendy. And we could chat forever on it. And I'm really I want to be involved in this. I want to. And do you know, in Japan, there is no such word as a retirement at all. You know, it's a British construct. it's been put there for us, and actually it no longer sits in employment terms, and the young women and men of the future are going to have retirement ages well over 70.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I think this refirement movement, although it's applicable to women for this purpose, it's applicable to anybody who's younger than 55 coming up, and how what their futures might look like.
Absolutely. And I think that's my message. The reason I wanted to start this from the over 55s as well is you are going to be of retirement age. But lots of women that we spoke to on the research talked about the fact that, well, I think it's a bit too late. I'm too late to start a pension. You are never, ever too late to plan a better future. And that's what this is about.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Wendy. I'm really excited about this for you, and congratulations on your research and the publication of your report.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about it.